As the final onion hit the bowl, she smiled softly to herself, a moment of buoyancy, crushed by the sudden sound of her phone vibrating against the counter like a harbinger of chaos. She picked it up and recognized the name. Evan. A surge of tightly coiled tension unfurled, coiling back as quickly as it released, her fingers hovering over the screen. "Who's that?" Zaire's voice, rich and deep, poured in from the living room where he was rearranging some of his books, making her heart race a little faster. His presence was a comforting weight, steadying her through every storm. "Just an old friend," she replied, fingers brushing the screen as she hesitated to swipe open the message. The faintest shadows danced across her face, yet Zaire's unwavering gaze anchored her. The way he crossed his arms, the slight tightening of his jaw, revealed the magnetism that crackled between them. "Old friend, huh?" His curiosity held an edge that sliced the air like her knife through onion. Sefina glanced at him, measuring the intensity in his dark eyes. Zaire had a unique ability to make her heart race while simultaneously feeling like a homecoming. She could see in the way he shifted how a hint of jealousy sparked behind his facade of nonchalance. "I mean, we dated quite a while ago," Sefina corrected cautiously, her voice a soft ripple in the charged silence. "It's nothing, really." Yet even as she said it, she felt her stomach churn with a mix of apprehension and excitement. Nothing has a funny way of coming back around, doesn't it? Like that last slice of pizza you convince yourself you don't want until it's staring you in the face, he teased, a playful smirk tugging at his lips, banishing the tension slightly. She laughed lightly, picturing the last time they'd shared pizza, their own brand of camaraderie, stacked high with cheese. "So you admit it? You're only here for the food, then?" "Of course. A man must prioritize." Zaire stepped closer, launching into a playful twirl of her hair around his finger. Their eyes locked, and the room shimmered with an electric charge that was utterly infectious. But the laughter faded from her voice, even as she dared to lean into him, seeking that warmth. Evan was complicated. "I'd rather focus on us right now." The intimacy of the moment was intoxicating, each second straining like a bowstring, a delicate balance between desire and vulnerability. "Focus on us? Is that what we're calling this?" He edged her, the twinkle in his eyes both inviting and challenging. "Might I suggest a more formal title? How about Partners in Crime?" "Partners in Crime, only if you promise not to give me the bad ideas." She stepped back, feigning innocence, nearby dishes rattling as she nearly bumped into the sink. "I don't know," he mused, his tone dripping with mischief. "Bad ideas are my specialty." He leaned onto the counter, body angled toward hers, the warmth radiating like summer's embrace. The moment hung heavy with what could be until Sefina's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, her heart sinking. "He wants to meet." "Who? Evan?" Zari's voice hardened, mirroring the sudden chill that raced through her veins. The laughter that just bloomed in the air withered under the weight of unspoken concern. "Just to talk," she murmured, a soft tremor lacing her tone. "It might help me clear the air." "Or stir up a storm," Zaire countered, the warmth replaced with a sharpness that coalesced between them. "Sefina, is that really a good idea?" "I don't want drama, Zaire. I just want to handle this." She stepped up closer, trying to bridge the widening gulf of uncertainty stretching between them. "It's not about wanting drama. It's about what you deserve," he responded, his voice low, the confidence he exuded washing over her with a fierce tide. "You're worth more than just someone's past. Let's not forget that." Those words wrapped around her heart, squeezing tight, not just from the weight of admiration, but from fear. Even as the thought of Evan loomed, drawing her deeper into a web twisted with nostalgia and regret, she could feel Zaire's unwavering presence anchoring her spirit. "Let's just be clear about one thing," Zaire said, leaning in, inches from her face, his breath mingling with hers. "I'm not giving up without a fight. Not now, not ever." She held his gaze, the world outside fading, the kitchen dimming to the background. The truth of his words resonated deep within her, sparking both anxiety and relief. In this chaos, in this moment tangled with jealousy and protective heat, she felt the truth of what they were building together. Would she plunge into the storm, or would she embrace the safety of his harbor? "Let's keep that fight where it belongs, for tonight at least," she whispered, a fragile smile breaking through the tension, a glimmer of hope woven into their reality. Scene 22, critical choices. The air in the dimly lit warehouse was thick with tension as the distant sounds of sirens echoed ominously through the cracked windows. Zaire Oladipo, tall and imposing, stood with his back against the cold steel of a shipping container, his heart pounding in rhythm with the approaching chaos outside. The coolness of the metal seeped through his fitted suit, grounding him momentarily as he reflected on the stakes spiraling out of control. He exhaled slowly, an internal war of love and loyalty waging within him. What if he couldn't protect her? Sefina Agbo, her dark curls framing her face like a halo aglow in the dim light, shifted uneasily nearby. A half-knitted scarf dangled from her hands, the vibrant colors stark against the muted backdrop. She felt the unsettling energy thrum between them, a connection that crackled with urgency. As if sensing his gaze, she looked up, and the world outside lurked behind her guarded eyes, troubled yet defiant. "I can't believe we're hiding out in a place like this," Sefina said, her voice a mixture of humor and anxiety. "Do we get to decorate it next?" Zaire cracked a slight smile, the tension easing just a fraction. "Only if you promise not to make it too avant-garde." She chuckled, though her laughter was strained. "What's wrong with avant-garde? I thought being trendy was your thing." Her attempt at lightness struck deeper than he expected. "Trendy doesn't keep you safe, Sefina." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "Look, this isn't just a game. There are people out there who don't think twice about making us collateral damage." The grin faded from her face, replaced by worry. "I've seen their faces there, and I know you're keeping secrets. You're in way too deep, and I'm standing right in the line of fire." "Is that why you're pushing me away?" he asked, his voice low and steady, though the teasing edge vanished. "Afraid of what I might do next?" A silence settled between them, thick and laden. The faint hum of the city outside faded as their eyes locked, his firm, hers pleading. Each heartbeat echoed through the room like a ticking clock to destiny. "How can you trust me after everything?" she breathed, the words vibrating with unspoken fear. Zaire took a moment, studying the depth of her vulnerability, the delicate arches of her brow furrowing in worry. "Trust isn't about the mistakes we've made. It's about what we choose to do moving forward." He caught her gaze, steady and certain. "You're worth every bit of risk, Sefina." "Worth it? You talk as if I'm some treasure." "No, you're not a treasure," he interjected, stepping even closer as the space between them crackled with an electric tension. "You're a choice I'm making." He softened, holding her gaze. "And I choose you." She inhaled sharply, a flicker of pain crossing her features. "What about duty? What about the business? You can't let everything go for this, whatever this is." Zaire's expression hardened, his resolve shimmering against the storm outside. "I won't let you drown because of my choices. I draw the line here, Sefina." The warmth of her presence engulfed him. The smell of her vanilla and jasmine spun around them, a comfort amidst the chaos. In a swift move, without thinking, he cupped her face in his hands. The world outside faded, leaving just the two of them in silence. Their breaths mingled, an unspoken connection framing the moment. His thumb brushed gently over her cheek, and she leaned into his touch, seeking solace. "You need to trust me too," he murmured, his face inches from hers, their lips nearly grazing, while the warmth of her breath fanned his skin. "I've got your back." "Zaire," she whispered, uncertainty lacing her voice. The gravity of her past battles flooded back into her mind, and yet despite the chaos that threatened to engulf them, she felt an overwhelming urge to lean in. "What if?" "I don't care about the what ifs," he interrupted softly, forging a promise in his gaze. "All I care about is you." The sirens crescendoed outside, signaling a life-or-death moment approaching fast. Sefina's heart raced, and in that fragile silence, the tension shifted, cracked like the glass windows around them. Zaire leaned in closer, his lips just brushing against hers, as if to seal their fate with a single promise. The air was charged, alive with unspoken desires and the taste of possibilities, as she closed the distance, promising herself she would never look back. "Whatever happens next," Zaire said, breathless and close, "we'll navigate it together." Scene 23, Flames of Desire. The flickering light from the candles cast shadows on the walls of Zaire's dimly lit office, where the scent of rich sandalwood filled the air, swirling with the tang of fresh rain that drummed gently against the tall windows. Outside, the storm threatened to unleash its fury, while inside, a different kind of tension brewed, electric and palpable. The atmosphere hummed with unspoken words, that delicious mix of warmth and anticipation. Zaire leaned against his mahogany desk, hands shoved deep into the pockets of his tailored trousers. His gaze rested on Sefina, who stood framed by the window, rain tracing delicate paths down the glass, obscuring the chaotic world beyond. There was something breathtaking about her as she held on to that sultry vulnerability, like a secret she was almost ready to unveil. "Zaire," she said softly, her voice cutting through the storm's distant rumble. "Do you think the storm will pass?" "It always does," he replied, a casual smile creeping onto his lips. Yet, the intensity of his stare betrayed his calm demeanor. "But sometimes, it leaves something beautiful in its wake." The warmth in his tone felt as rich as the whiskey that swirled in his glass. Safina's heart raced, and the space between them seemed to shrink under the weight of their unspoken feelings. She swayed slightly, as if pulled by an unseen force, her expression a tapestry of longing, shadowed by the uncertainty that cut just below the surface. Sounds poetic, but beauty doesn't always last, does it? "Maybe it just needs the right elements," he said, stepping closer, the subtle scent of his cologne mingling with the sandalwood, intoxicating her senses further. "The right company." "Company can be deceiving," Sefina replied, her voice tinged with playful defiance. "You might be all charm and intrigue, Zaire, but I have a knack for spotting trouble." "Trouble is what keeps life interesting," he retorted lightly, yet the gravity in his gaze belied his words. They both crouched on the precipice of something monumental, a leap that felt as thrilling as it was terrifying. Thunder rumbled outside, a reminder of the chaos that lurked just beyond their fragile bubble. Zaire leaned forward, resting his hands on the desk, his eyes locked onto hers. The room narrowed until it felt like they were the only two people left in the universe. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked, the question hanging heavily between them, echoing the storm's distant growl. Sefina swallowed hard, torn between her instinct to shield her heart and the undeniable draw she felt towards him. "I'm not afraid of you, Zaire. I'm afraid of what I might find if I let you in." "Let me show you," he whispered, the words hanging like a dare in the charged air. "You might be surprised." Their worlds collided when she took a bold step forward, closing the space between them. Heart pounding, she lifted her chin, meeting his gaze with fierce determination. With every fiber of her being, she silently challenged him to unlock the door she had kept barred for so long. And in that moment, the storm outside roared louder, as if the very sky was urging them on. Rain pattered on the glass, weaving a rhythmic melody that enveloped them, giving the illusion of privacy. Zaire reached out tentatively, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "You're more than your fears, Sefina. You know that, right?" Her breath caught in her throat as warmth flooded her cheeks. "I want to believe that, but believing feels dangerous." "Sometimes that's the only way to truly live," he murmured, his tone rich with promise. Then, with unhurried grace, he closed the distance between them, the heat radiating off him, warming her skin. "How about we take a step into that danger together?" Safina's defenses wavered like the shadows on the wall, pulled under by the gravity of his sincerity. The soft crack of thunder echoed like a distant thunderclap, washing over them, wrapping their fragile moment in a blanket of urgency. "Together?" she echoed, a hint of mischief playing in her tone. "Together," he confirmed, leaning closer, both of them suspended in time. Just then, the dim flicker of the candles was momentarily overshadowed, the power blinking ominously. Zaire's attention snapped to the window, vigilant, the storm hinting at more than just rain. "Looks like we may have company," he muttered, but there was a grin tugging at his lips as he turned back to her. "Perfect timing for a little adventure, don't you think?" Sefina laughed, the sound rich and bright, cutting through the mounting tension. "Well, I never back down from an adventure." "Then let's make it memorable," he said, an enticing invitation laced with mischief, just before his expression shifted to the seriousness of their situation. Outside, the storm raged, but inside Zaire's office, the fires of desire were only just beginning to ignite. Scene 24, an unexpected reunion. The late afternoon sun streamed through the half-drawn curtains of the dimly lit cafe, casting playful shadows across the wooden floor. The aroma of rich, dark coffee mingled with the sweet scent of freshly baked pastries, creating an inviting haven against the chaos of the world outside. Sefina Agbo sat at a small table by the window, her fingers tracing the rim of a chipped ceramic cup as her heart raced in a blend of nostalgia and anxiety. Zaire Oladipo leaned against the wall, arms crossed over his chest, the muscles in his jaw tightening as he caught her gaze. "Why did you come back here, Sefina?" His voice was low, a potent mix of concern and something deeper, a challenge she could feel vibrating in the air between them. "Maybe I needed to face it," she replied, her voice wavering slightly. "Sometimes you can't run from your past forever." She lifted her chin defiantly, yet the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes betrayed her bravado. "And sometimes," he countered, pushing himself off the wall to close the distance, "you shouldn't." Zaire's warmth wrapped around her, filling the tension with a charged intimacy that buzzed like static electricity. She could feel the weight of his presence as he settled into the chair across from her, the table suddenly feeling like a fragile barrier. The casual clinking of spoons against plates and the soft murmurs of other patrons faded into the background as their world narrowed to the pulse of their connection. "Isn't that what you said when you first reached out?" she pressed, her voice softer now. Sefina shifted in her seat, her nails digging into the wood, a nervous habit she hadn't quite shaken. "You wanted to help, but knowing you were there like a ghost, it was just easier to pretend you didn't exist, only because I didn't want to scare you." Zaire's gaze held hers, unyielding yet encouraging, as if he were searching for the truth behind her bravado. "But now A sudden blare of laughter from a nearby table interrupted him, causing her to instinctively look away, her stomach twisting with the thought of the past echoing around her. "I should have never come here, Zaire," she said, her voice steadier, but laced with sorrow. "This place, it's full of memories I can't escape. You think running will help?" His eyes darkened, a storm brewing just beneath the surface. "You think ignoring everything will make it disappear? Because newsflash, it doesn't work like that." "Why are you so insistent?" she shot back, a sharp edge to her tone, clenching her fists tightly. "You don't know what it's like." Sefina could feel the desperation bubbling beneath her skin, and she hated him for making her confront it. "You were never one to hide from trouble." "Trouble?" Zaire echoed, amusement flickering at the corners of his mouth. "If only you knew. Trouble has been my best friend for years." Her laughter broke free despite herself, a genuine sound that felt refreshing, their banter like a comforting blanket against the chill of her fears. "So you're telling me you have a wild side?" she asked, arching an eyebrow playfully. "Oh, wild doesn't cover it. Let's just say I've had to protect more than a few secrets." Zaire leaned closer, the scent of musky cologne enveloping her senses, breaking through the weight of their discourse. "But believe me when I say, I'd go to the ends of the earth to keep you safe, to keep those secrets buried." For a moment, their gazes locked with an intensity that erased the surrounding noise. The universe distilled into the two of them, tension crackling like static electricity in the air. "Why did you really come back here, Sefina?" Zaire's voice softened, genuine warmth spilling forth, laced with concern. "What are you afraid of?" Her response lingered in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Sefina bit her lip, the weight of her indiscretions teetering on the edge of confession. "I'm plagued by my past, and all that it means for our future." Zaire drew in a sudden breath, and the world around them stilled, the cafe transforming into their own private sanctuary. "Whatever it is," he said, his voice an anchor as his hand reached across the table, brushing against hers, sending a bolt of warmth coursing through her. "You don't have to face it alone. I'm here." The distance between them melted as they locked eyes, vulnerabilities laid bare. "And what if? What if I'm too broken to be saved?" she whispered, fearing his answer. Zaire held her gaze, an iron resolve in his voice. "Then I'll be the one to piece you back together." And for the first time, there was a glimmer of hope lingering in Sefina's heart, merging with the pain. In that moment, the painful choices of the past felt less daunting, as if the future lay within their reach together. Scene 25, Mind Games. The rain pattered against the tall, dark windows of the cafe, each droplet a reminder of the chaos lurking just outside. Inside, The air was thick with the heady aroma of roasted coffee beans and fresh pastries, a deceptive comfort in a world that felt anything but safe. Sefina Agbo stirred her espresso, the swirling liquid mirroring her thoughts, chaotic, dark, and muddled. Zaire Oladipo entered the cafe, tall and imposing, even in this intimate setting. He scanned the room with a hawkish gaze, his posture a mixture of protective intensity and simmering frustration. When his eyes landed on Sefina, the storm within him quieted, if only for a moment. Yet the tension of unsaid things crackled between them, electric and uncompromising. Zaire, Sefina said, her voice thin, as if the sound could break the fragile atmosphere. You didn't need to come. His eyes narrowed, warm yet fierce. You're my priority, Sefina, always. And the last time I checked, your life was in jeopardy. Right, because sitting in a crowded cafe is going to save me from the shadows stalking us, she quipped, rolling her eyes as she set down her spoon. You think you can just swoop in and save me every time? He leaned forward, his elbows on the table. This isn't just about saving you. This is also about trust. You keep shutting me out, and it's becoming a problem. Her breath caught. Trust? That's rich coming from someone with secrets tucked away like a thief. Sefina's tone was sharp, slicing through the sweetness of the cafe like a knife. My secrets are to protect you, he replied, his voice steady, yet an edge of hurt flickered in his gaze. You think I'm the only one with this burden? I'm risking everything here. I'm not some fragile thing that needs protection. Sefina fired back, her pulse quickening. You don't get to dictate how I respond to this life. I deserve to know what's going on. Do you really want to know? Zaire shot back, frustration spilling over. Do you understand what it means to be involved in my world? It's not just games and coffee. It's dangerous, and I won't let you be another casualty. Sefina's heart raced, part anger, part shame. She faltered. Am I just a risk? Is that all I am to you? He hesitated, the weight of unspoken truths hanging heavy. You're everything, he admitted, his voice low. The sincerity etched in his features softened Sefina's resolve, or perhaps it exposed her vulnerability. Then stop treating me like a child, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I can handle the truth, Zaire. He looked at her, and she saw the shadows beneath his bravado, a man struggling between love and protection. Do you remember what I told you? That love is seldom without sacrifice? Sefina's eyes softened, an electric tension threading its way through her heart. Are you willing to sacrifice too? His gaze pierced hers, the thunder of unacknowledged feelings crashing between them. I won't have you hurt because of me, he whispered, the guard slipping momentarily. And yet, here we are, plotting in plain view of our enemies. Then let's stop hiding, Sefina challenged. This isn't just about you saving me. I want to be in this with you. The sincerity of her words hit him like a physical blow. You really mean that? Zaire leaned in, his voice inviting, his warmth wrapping around her like a soft blanket. Every word, she replied, her heart racing as their worlds collided. A soft laugh shared between them broke the tension, and Zaire's lips quirked up. You know, if we keep bickering like this, people will start to think we're a couple. Maybe we are, Sefina shot back, a spark of mischief igniting in her eyes, the weight of their earlier argument dissipating like the steam rising from her cup. Does this mean I get to claim half your pastries? He grinned, the tension unfolding like a flower as laughter eased the storm within them. You can have half, she said, a playful defiance shimmering in her voice, but only if you save the last raspberry tart for me. Zaire leaned back, the tension shifting into something beautifully charged, a promise hanging in the air. I just might. In that moment of levity amidst the looming dangers, Sefina realized that perhaps their bond was stronger than the shadows threatening to consume them both. Scene 26, Heartbeat Away. In a dimly lit art studio crammed with canvases that leaned against each other like whispered secrets, Sefina stood, her fingers dusted with ochres and deep blues. The scent of turpentine hung in the air, mingling with the faint aroma of lemon-scented cleaning solution. It was a space that once felt like sanctuary, yet today it buzzed with an electric tension that overloaded its boundaries. Zaire leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, his silhouette exuding a magnetic blend of confidence and concern. He allowed the silence to linger, letting the weight of their unspoken words fill the room like thick fog. The air around them thrummed, a heartbeat away from chaos, echoing the turmoil he sensed in her. "You keep painting," Zaire finally said, breaking the silence, his voice low and deliberate, "like you're trying to capture something or escape." Sefina turned at the waist, bristles of her brush lingering above the canvas. "Is it wrong to seek escape?" she replied, her tone playful but edged with something more. "Trust me, if I could paint my way out of my problems, I would have done so by now." She glanced at him, a wry smile playing on her lips, but the flicker of vulnerability in her eyes betrayed her bravado. "Sometimes it feels like you paint over the truth." Zaire stepped closer, his presence a comforting storm mingling with her artistic chaos. "What's the piece really about?" With a spark caught between them, Sefina pulled her eyes away from the canvas and clashed them against his. "It's about being trapped." Her voice was softer now, the tiny brushstrokes of her words building tension. "And who's to say that your world isn't just as confining?" A silence wrapped around them, heavy and charged. Zaire pushed off the doorframe, absorbing her challenge. "It's about fighting back, not just surviving." Just then, a raindrop splattered loudly on the rooftop, amplifying the simmering atmosphere. They shared a fleeting grin, recognizing the absurdity of their plight. Life outside was a storm, yet here they stood poised in an emotional tempest of their own making. "I make my own choices, Zaire," Sefina declared, tilting her chin defiantly and making her way toward him, paint flicking from the brush she still clutched. "But sometimes you make it difficult for me to breathe." He chuckled softly, the sound reverberating in the small space. "Well, maybe I'm just here to steal your air." He advanced into her personal space, an insistent heat radiating from him, making every nerve in her body hum with awareness. And suddenly, they were not just a man and a woman lost in the chaos of life's uncertainties. They were two souls colliding, vulnerable yet fiercely drawn to one another. "Why do you really distrust me so much?" Zaire questioned, his voice dipping into a gravelly whisper that stirred something deep within her. "Because you're too perfect for this mess," Sefina admitted, her defense unraveling like paint dripped from a brush. "I have secrets, shadows I can't share, and yet you know them, yet you hide. It makes me ache. Then let me be the one to break down those walls." As he said this, Zaire reached out, his fingers brushing against the cool skin of her wrist, sending a warm current through her. "Let me help you unearth your truths." "I want to," she confessed, barely above a whisper, stepping even closer, breathing him in, yet she was still chained by the shadows of her past. "Then trust me," he murmured. Her heart beat loud in response, threatening to drown out the tumult of thoughts rushing through her mind. Moments stretched, floors trembled beneath them, the world outside fading away. Zaire took a breath, leaning in so close that she could feel the warmth radiating off his lips. "If I'm not enough to protect you, I'll make sure you know you're never alone in this." And just like that, their lips met, tentative at first, like a dance unfolding with the gentle chaos of raindrops against the rooftop. The world faded entirely, as if their kiss was creating a cocoon, shielding them against every outside threat, drawing them deeper into the fiery heart of their tangled desires. All around them, the disarray continued. But in this intimate moment of fire and vulnerability, all either of them could feel was the rhythm of their heartbeat, echoing in the silence. As the kiss lingered, a promise unwound within them, a commitment to untangle their truths together, no matter the cost. "Tell me that you'll let me in," Zaire breathed against her lips, their foreheads resting against each other, breaths mingling in the aftermath. Sefina's eyes fluttered open, and she didn't have words, but she nodded slowly, a silent vow woven between them. In that heartbeat, the chaos outside felt miles away, as the storm raged, both outside in the world and within their hearts. Scene 27. Getting closer. The rain drummed insistently against the window, a medley of chaotic notes harmonizing with the quiet urgency that had enveloped the dimly lit room. Sefina stood in front of the old oak desk, the scent of cedar mingling with the lingering aroma of her herbal tea, a calming balm against the storm outside. Her fingers absent-mindedly traced the rim of the cup, grounding herself in its warmth. Every drop of rain felt like a reminder of their precarious reality, and yet a life preserver floated in the metaphorical waves. Zaire. His presence, both intimidating and comforting, weighed in her chest, igniting a mix of dread and anticipation. "You're going to overthink it," Zaire said from the doorway, leaning casually against the frame, arms crossed. His voice, rich and steady, pulled her from her reverie and wrapped around her like a protective mantle. "What if I have to?" Sefina replied, a hint of challenge lighting her eyes. "We don't know who's watching, or what they might do if we make the wrong move." He pushed himself off the door and took a step closer, the wood flooring creaking beneath his weight. "You think I haven't wondered the same thing? But overthinking only makes it worse." He approached with an air of deliberate calm, and Sefina felt the temperature of the room shift, the air thickening, electric. As he stopped mere inches away, she could feel the heat radiating from his body. His gaze didn't hold her captive, rather, it offered an unspoken promise. There was a depth there, darkness nestled within the warmth. "Sefina, sometimes." "Everything's going to be fine? That we'll figure it out together?" She interrupted, punctuating her retort with a playful smirk, the kind that used to shield her from vulnerability but now revealed a hidden wish to connect. "Nice try," he chuckled, shaking his head. "You're still hiding behind your walls. Isn't that what you wanted? To keep me safe?" The words slipped from her mouth before she could consider their weight, the challenge hanging in the air between them. "And yet here I am, fighting against the very defenses I thought would keep you alive." His voice softened, and the rain outside had dulled into a mere backdrop to this exchange. Zaire reached out, his fingers brushing the handle of her teacup, an innocent touch that ignited a complex dance in her chest. "Does it bother you?" she asked, tilting her head, eyes narrowing slightly like a feline analyzing its next move. The humor was gone now, replaced by a seriousness that lingered like the anticipation before a storm. "Only because you're not giving yourself the credit you deserve. Trust me, you're stronger than you think," he replied, his tone steady and reassuring, yet laced with unfiltered intensity. In that moment, the walls around Sefina began to tremble and crack as her defenses lowered, the fog of uncertainty lifting as something flickered in the space between them. "Maybe I don't want to be strong all the time," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "Then don't be. Just be with me." His words hung in the air, even more potent than the storm raging outside. She stepped closer, their bodies almost alight with uncharted energy, a charged silence blooming into something tangible as his hand reached out and cradled her cheek. The pull between them intensified, like the world outside fading into a blurred chaos. The rain now mere background noise for the symphony of their hearts thundering in sync. And there it was, vulnerability glistening in his eyes, a fragile yet powerful truth that neither of them quite understood. The moment enveloped them, tender yet fierce. Zaire leaned forward as if to seal the space between them, a quiet but potent declaration that held the weight of 1,000 unsaid secrets. "Sefina," he murmured, his breath ghosting her lips as his forehead rested against hers. The rain intensified, each droplet a dark pulse of passion mirrored in their breath. Time suspended as their lips brushed, a gentle caress that felt like the promise of warmth against the bitter rain. The kiss deepened, and her walls began to crumble completely, revealing the unknown depths of her desires. "What if this is the moment we never recover from?" she whispered against his lips, vulnerability and a glimmer of mischief dancing in her eyes. "Then let's make it worth it," he replied, his voice both a challenge and an invitation. And in the chaos outside, they found warmth, a surrender to newfound intimacy, a step deeper into the unknown, while the world blurred and faded into the storm beyond. Scene 28. Into the Abyss. As rain drummed against the large bay windows of Zaire's loft, Sefina stood, arms crossed, gazing out at the storm-soaked city. The downpour smeared the sprawling skyline like a wet canvas, and the rumble of thunder echoed her tumultuous thoughts. "Why did you put yourself in danger?" she demanded, turning to face Zaire, who leaned against the counter, his expression chiseled with frustration. "You didn't have to take the fall for me." Zaire's dark eyes bore into hers, igniting a tension that pulsed in the air between them. "You think I'd let you take the brunt of this alone? You think I could just stand back?" His voice was a low growl, resonating with the intensity of the storm outside. "You don't know what's at stake, Sefina. I can't let them hurt you." They're not going to hurt me, she shot back, stepping closer, her heart racing like the blurred, slick streets below. I can handle myself. Handle yourself? He scoffed, crossing his arms over his chest, the fabric of his shirt taut against his physique. You're in over your head. You have no idea who you're up against. Sefina's eyes flared with fire. And you do? You're no saint, Zaire. You live in a world of shadows. You think I can't see the darkness that looms over you? The air crackled between them, a tempest of unresolved feelings, the echo of thunder drowning out their rising voices. And yet you're so drawn to it, he replied, stepping forward, mere inches between them. You think you're some kind of savior in this bleak mess, but you're just playing with flames. You need to understand what love truly means, Sefina. It's not some naive fairy tale. His words were sharp, but there was an undercurrent of longing, though it got lost beneath their rising tensions. And just like that, the tempest swallowed them whole, the storm outside mirroring the chaos of their hearts. Sefina clenched her fists, feeling a rush of frustration spill over. I'm not naive. I've fought for my dreams in a world that wants to see me fail. At her words, Zaire's expression softened momentarily, revealing the hurt hidden beneath his exterior. And I respect that. But it's not just your dreams at risk, it's your life. They stood close, their breath mingling, the distance between them shrinking as the rain hammered harder, a relentless symphony urging them forward. In the flickering light, she could see the worry etched in his brow, the way he fought to mask the depth of his emotions. I don't want to lose you, he admitted, the raw honesty surprising her. I've lost enough, Sefina. Enough people who mattered. Then let me in, she replied, her voice dropping to a whisper, vulnerability threading through her words like a fragile spider's web. Stop pushing me away. The moment hung between them, saturated with unspoken truths. Zaire reached up, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face, the simple gesture sparking a current they both felt. I've kept you at arm's length for too long. I just didn't want you to see the ruins I've built around myself. Ruins can be rebuilt, she said softly, leaning into his touch, their eyes locking in an electric embrace. But only if you let me help. Before he could answer, a blinding flash of lightning illuminated the room, followed by a cacophony of thunder that shook the walls, rattling their resolve. Zaire's hand fell away, grounding her in the moment, but she didn't want to be grounded. She wanted to fly, to dive into the depths of what was between them. Maybe we're both too broken for this, he said, stepping back, the space between them redefining the intensity of their confrontation, pulsing with unvoiced fears. Or maybe we're exactly what each other needs. No one can be fixed in isolation. Sefina advanced again, that familiar fire igniting in her belly. We can't keep avoiding this, avoiding us. Zaire's gaze darkened, a flicker of something primal stirring within him. Then what do you propose we do? Each word fell like raindrops, heavy with an unspoken promise. She held his gaze, determination and passion swirling between them. We dive in, together. No games, no secrets. Outside, the storm raged, but within the confines of the loft, a different kind of storm was brewing, one filled with potential and the weight of confessions waiting to be unleashed. Together, he repeated, almost as a mantra, as if sealing a pact neither could ignore. And with that, the floodgates opened between them, the barrier of their hearts poised to collapse, ready to embrace the wild, unpredictable depths that lay waiting in the abyss. Scene 29. The calm before the storm. Zaire's penthouse was luminously stark, with wide windows framing the city skyline that glimmered like fractured glass at sunset. A warm amber glow filtered through, spilling across the polished wooden floors and illuminating the modern furniture with a gentle, ethereal light. The air was thick with the spicy, sweet scent of cedar and the soft undertones of jasmine from the open window. In this oasis, where chaos felt miles away, Zaire and Sefina found themselves cocooned in an odd stillness. Sefina sat at the edge of the long, sleek couch, her fingers tracing the grain of the wood beneath her. She could hear the distant hum of the city below, a comforting background serenade, but her mind was racing. Tension coiled through her like the tightening of a spring. Zaire, seated across from her in a deep leather armchair, exuded an easy confidence, his dark eyes watching her with an intensity that stirred both unease and desire within her. You're awfully quiet, Sefina, Zaire said, the deep timbre of his voice wrapping around her like a warm blanket. "What's going on in that head of yours?" She looked up, those hazel eyes deepening with turmoil. "It's just everything feels so fragile right now. The calm before the storm and all that," she replied, a playful edge leaking through her serious tone. "I have half a mind to pop some bubble wrap and dance around the room. Want to join?" He chuckled, a low, rich sound that danced in the air between them. "With you? Absolutely. But I'm pretty sure that would break my reputation as an unyielding crime lord. Not to mention, you may terrorize the neighbors." Sefina shifted, the laughter fading just slightly into the edges of her uncertainty. "You don't think I don't know, too chaotic?" "Chaos has its uses." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his gaze intensifying. "It can shake things up, force people to face their truths." Her heart raced as his words pierced through her ever-present fears. "And what if those truths are too heavy? Or worse, what if they don't even matter to you?" Zaire paused, an unreadable expression crossing his face. "You think I'm afraid of weight? You're the one who dances with shadows. I've seen you sway through the darkness, Sefina, and emerge with every piece of your spirit intact." "You make it sound poetic," she replied, bitterness creeping into her voice. "They're your shadows. You get to define them." In that moment, she saw the vulnerability behind his bravado, the flicker of concern that had settled deep in his gaze. He wasn't just her protector. He was grappling with his own fears, too. She took a breath, steadying herself, feeling the weight of her walls as they began to tremble. "Zaire, what if? What if I'm not strong enough to face what's coming? I know chaos can be beautiful, but it can also be destructive." Sefina's voice trembled, revealing a deeper ache she had long buried. Zaire stood up and moved closer, the space between them shrinking in an electrifying moment of silence. "You are stronger than you think," he said softly, tilting her chin up so she met his eyes. "You've survived so much more than you realize. These fears, they don't define you, but they can help you discover your real strength." "Easy for you to say. You're Mr. Tall, dark, and untouchable. You face down storms without so much as a flinch." She struggled to match his intensity, but her facade cracked, revealing the longing buried deep in her heart. "Trust me, I have my storms," he whispered, his voice lowering as he leaned into her personal space. "But right now, I want to be your calm." Her breath caught in her throat, and as his hands gently cradled her face, she felt the pull of something undeniable between them. "What if I let myself be vulnerable? Then you'll find you have someone who can weather the storm with you," he murmured, brushing his thumb across her cheek. For a heartbeat, silence hung like a fragile moment suspended in time. The world outside ceased to exist. Sefina longed to close that distance, but fear simmered just beneath the surface. Her entire being relaxed, yet tension coiled tighter, a delicate dance of desire mixing with hesitation. Then, as if drawn by an invisible thread, she whispered, "Show me, Zaire." And in those 4 words, the world shifted beneath them, heralding a storm neither had seen coming. Scene 30. False sense of security. The sun had dipped behind the skyscrapers of the city, casting long shadows in the dim alley where Zaire and Sefina now stood, an untouched silence hanging between them like an unspoken promise. The air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked asphalt and sizzling street food from a nearby vendor, but tension crackled through their shared breath. "Do you think they're really gone?" Sefina asked, her voice barely above a whisper, the light catching the golden flecks in her warm brown eyes. She shifted her weight from one foot to another, fingers twisting nervously in the hem of her jacket. Zaire leaned against the cool brick wall, his posture relaxed, but a storm brewed beneath the surface. "For now, but this city, it's unpredictable. We can't let our guard down." He caught her gaze, holding on to it like a tether. She smiled, albeit shakily, and tried to ease her worry with humor. "You sound like my therapist, Zaire. The world is chaotic and life is transient," she mimicked in a comically philosophical tone. Zaire chuckled, the sound deep and reassuring. "Maybe we should start a therapy center. I could be the wise, brooding therapist and you the fun-loving artist." "Yeah, and every session would dissolve into painting therapy, where we constantly misunderstand each other's abstract concepts." Sefina threw him a playful smirk, attempting to mask the weight they both felt in the aftermath of their encounters. Just then, a clatter echoed off the alley walls, snapping their focus. Sefina stiffened, the laughter dying in her throat. Zaire's demeanor shifted, turning sharper, more alert. He glanced towards the mouth of the alley, his expression darkening like thunderclouds gathering on the horizon. "Stay close," he ordered, his voice low and firm, leaving no room for argument. Sefina edged closer, the warmth of his presence wrapping around her. For a fleeting moment, she felt as if nothing could touch them. The world outside faded. It was just them, cocooned in familiarity. "What if we," she began, but the words hung suspended, drowned out by a guttural shout from the street beyond. Zaire's eyes narrowed. "This isn't a game, Sefina. I need you to trust me." "I do trust you," she exclaimed, her urgency fueling each syllable. A beat passed, and then she breathed. "But trusting isn't the same as being comfortable, is it?" The accusation landed soft yet firm, like the crack of a whip. Zaire lingered on her words, not only hearing the challenge but feeling it stir in the pit of his stomach. The air felt charged, taut, with the kind of intimacy that bordered on desperation. "Intimacy's messy," he admitted, his voice lowering further, inviting her in. "Trust doesn't come easy, but it's worth fighting for, worth risking it all." "Yet here we are, risking everything in this crumbling city," she retorted, a playful glint sparking in her eyes. "At least we'll have a dramatic story to tell at parties." "Right," Zaire smirked, but that smirk quickly faltered. "Assuming we live long enough for the punchline to land." Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the distance, the sound creeping up on them like a thief. Zaire pushed her unceremoniously behind him. "Get down," he hissed, his voice commanding and relentless. Sefina's heart raced as she crouched, instinctively folding into his protective stance. "What now?" "If they're coming for us," he began before another noise shattered the moment, a metallic clang and muffled voices. "Did you call for backup?" she asked, dread pooling in her gut. "No." He was cut off as a shadow loomed in the entryway of the alley, their silhouette casting an unsettling aura. Sefina's breath hitched, but in this split second, Zaire reached back, finding her hand and locking fingers. "Whatever happens, you stick with me," he said, his voice steady, coursing through her like iron. "Let's execute a graceful exit." Sefina couldn't help but flinch at the possibility. "Graceful seems rather optimistic for tonight." He flashed a half smile, his eyes glinting with a playful challenge. "Who said we can't be poetic in our escape?" Just before they made a move to dart from the shadows, the figure stepped closer, revealing a familiar face, a friend who had entered the realm of the unexpected. "Surprise!" the figure bellowed, waving dramatically. Zaire groaned, and Sefina burst into laughter, the tension lifting like the sun breaking through morning mist. "Really? You thought this was the right time for a surprise party?" Zaire sighed, half amused, half exasperated. "Less party, more intervention." The friend grinned, eyes flitting to Sefina, then back as if measuring the stakes. "Trust me, you'll want to sit down for this." As they exchanged glances, Sefina felt buoyed by the unfurling moment. The adrenaline ebbed, allowing a faint, shimmering light of hope to return. "Now, where were we on that therapy center?" Sefina queried, nudging Zaire playfully before they faced the friend, their expressions a mix of curiosity and the promise of chaos yet to come. Scene 31. A revelation unfolds. A storm brewed in the city, dark clouds rolling overhead like a silent army gathering for an inevitable assault. The scent of rain mixed with the faint traces of exhaust fumes wafting in from the bustling streets, creating a heady aroma that filled Sefina's tiny art studio. She stood by the window, her fingers light upon the wet canvas before her, a blurred portrait of a shadowy figure she couldn't quite name. Zaire's silhouette filled the doorway, the dim light catching the contours of his frame. He leaned against the door jamb, arms crossed, brow furrowed. "You know," he said, his voice low and steady, "you might want to add a splash of color there. It looks a bit dreary." Sefina stepped back, her heart racing. "It's meant to be moody, Zaire. You don't just slap a smiley face on pain." His lips curled into a smirk. "Okay, Vincent van Gogh, but even he knew how to balance light and dark." She raised an eyebrow at him, half diverted, half challenging. "And what would you know about artistry?" His expression darkened just a touch, revealing the complexity beneath his playful facade. "More than you might think." He stepped forward into the fading light, his presence consuming the small space. Suddenly, thunder cracked. and rain began to pelt against the window like insistent fingers trying to pry open a door. Sefina shivered, her skin prickling. "It's storming," she said, glancing skyward, though she felt every heartbeat thundering in her ears. "I know." Zaire's gaze remained locked on her, intense and piercing. "You don't need to be afraid of the storm. You're stronger than you think." "Maybe," she replied softly, but her voice wavered, the weight of unspoken fears settling between them. "But your world, Zaire, I don't know if I belong in it." He moved in closer, the space between them crackling with a combination of tension and something deeper. "What do you mean?" "Your meetings. I saw things, Zaire.